If you've got a thirst for knowledge and a love for craft beer, then tune in to our podcast and let us bend your ear. From UFOs to rock and roll, you'll be ROTFL, you're AO. Saying, are you shitting me?
Welcome to another edition of Are You Shitting Me? My name's Aaron, and with me always is my good friend and co-host, Brett. How's it going?
Hello, Aaron. Hi, shitters. How are you?
Hey, shitters. How's it going?
What's new, Aaron?
Not much, really. Nothing's ever new for me, man. I just work on music and guitars, and that's basically what I do. Yeah, my life is basically the same. So how about you?
Living the dream, as always.
Special guest with us today here, right?
Oh, my God. Yeah, we do. We have Danielle, who is co-host of the National Park After Dark podcast. You guys just recently celebrated 4 years, I think, correct?
We did. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. 4 years has flown by.
Can you tell us about the podcast a little bit?
Sure. So myself and my co-host Cassie, who has been my longtime friend since after college, we met actually working at a veterinary hospital that we worked at together. And that's kind of where we got the idea of starting the podcast. We were each other's outdoor coworker friends. You know, you have different coworkers that fit different roles. Okay, I'll go out for margaritas with you, or I'll go on a hike with you, and etc. So Cassie and I were really the outdoor people of our work group, and we would spend a lot of time outside in the White Mountains of New Hampshire on our days off. And I have always had a morbid curiosity for my entire life. So when we were outdoors a lot, I would start talking to her about the crazy, messed up, dark things that have happened either on the trail that we were on, the area we were in, or somewhere that we wanted to go. I'm like, oh, did you know whatever happened there? And she also has a same kind of interest in that. And we just started talking about it a lot. And then I decided to move, as I usually do, to Washington. And she was going to move to Vermont. And we were both in New Hampshire at the time. So we were going bi-coastal, and we wanted to keep the conversation going in just a different format. So we decided to start the podcast with no clue as to how to do that. We were
familiar with that.
Yes, completely self-taught, lots of Googling, YouTube tutorials, lots of late nights because we were still working as vet techs at the time. And yeah, so it took off with similar like-minded people, and 4 years just went by like that.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I've listened to several of your episodes actually, and it's really interesting. I turned my wife onto it. She's really into the murder podcasts, and I think she was looking for something new, not so stale as everything else out there. So she's really enjoying them as well. Cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I love the name of it too, like National Park After Dark. It's such a great. Did you come up with that, or who came up with that?
I did. And I don't even really remember how, to be honest with you. It was just, I hate to say it just came to me, but it did. Yeah.
Great.
I started listening. I was gardening, and I'm like, I need something new. And I didn't even know how I came across it, but yeah, I got hooked probably about 2 years ago. And yeah, by the way, you're my favorite because Cassie's not here.
Perfect. By default, I'll take it.
Right.
We're gearing up to going a big expedition to Antarctica. So this week is crazy for us. So she's in the midst of preparing for that. And yeah.
That's cool. Have you ever been there before?
We have not. We do a lot of group trips as an extension of the podcast. And we've been here, there, and everywhere. But Antarctica is definitely a first. So we'll be leaving in about a week.
State park there?
There's not a state park there or a national park.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. National park.
Yeah. There's.
Oh my God, ruined that.
What's
already.
the topic today, Brett? By the way, what are we talking about?
I'm here. Hey, it's early for me. Okay, you guys got to sleep in. I did not.
Sorry. We are talking about national parks today, actually. If you haven't picked up that clue, and actually, you brought a beer with us too, didn't you?
Sure did. So this beer I'm drawn to because of I'm a big, what does the label convey? Mm-hmm. Love this. So it's a National Park Series beer, and it's called Parks IPA from Grand Teton Brewing. And that's out of Victor, Idaho, which is actually right near the border of Wyoming, not far from Grand Teton National Park. Have either of you been there?
I have not. No, I have not.
Missing out. I haven't either, to be completely honest. I've been to Yellowstone, which is really close.
I've been to Yellowstone.
Yes, that's my favorite park of all time.
Me too.
So this beer, it's IPA with 4.7 ABV. It's in the National Park Series, like I said, and they have an Old Faithful ale, a Teton Breeze fruited sour. I love sours. Also, huge fan.
My wife does too.
Yeah, it's something about the like tang that comes in the back of your jaw.
Yeah, it has to be the right sour though. Sometimes it's too harsh or whatever else. And man, like
when it causes lockjaw, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, then it's gone too far. Right. And they have an Old Faithful root beer as well. Has a 3.56 approved rating out of over 3,400 ratings. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's open this bad boy.
Okay.
It's fairly clear. It's a very mild haze.
Okay, let me pour it in here.
Definitely has the IPA punch smell to it.
Oh.
Red is not an IPA fan.
I can't believe I'm drinking at 10 a.m. First of all.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it smells like a pine tree or something.
That should be good.
I don't mind that actually. It's not as hard hitting as I thought it would be.
Oh, it's awful. I can't.
So you're not an IPA person?
I am not. No, stouts is where I'm at.
He's tried and tried and tried, and I don't think we found one that you've liked. It's not like more of a sweet side.
Yeah, no, some hazies I can do. This is a little bit hazy-ish, but not. Ooh, it's a little bit too bitter for me.
It feels like IPAs to me always feel like I'm drinking soap.
I get that. It's like a smooth feel over your tongue a little bit. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I actually don't. I'm not a huge IPA fan as well. I also enjoy stouts and sours, like Left Hand Milk Stout. Have you tried that?
Oh yeah,
Like,
I had that one.
Left Hand's good. But yeah, I don't mind this.
I don't either. It's not bad.
Yeah, not my jam, but yeah, I agree. Left Hand, I think, is what got me into stouts.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, mine was Dragon's Milk. That was my first one, and I'm like, oh, what is this? I would drink this one again. Not bad.
I'm going to continue to drink it. I'm not going to throw it away.
For sure.
Nice.
So, national parks. We're jumping right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
So, I guess I'm gonna backtrack for a second. What was it about national parks that drew you into the whole national park theme, Danielle?
I would say so. I had a cliche experience that got me into national parks. I went to Yellowstone. It was my first national park, and I went with my family. I went with my mom, my stepdad, my sister, and then my grandparents, my mom's parents. So it was the classic. We're all in a van.
Yeah.
Generations worth going through America's first national park, and that was back in, I want to say 2011, 2010 maybe. And I absolutely fell in love. It was my first, there was a lot of firsts for me in that trip. It was my first time truly out west. It was because I'm a New England born and raised girl. It was my first time seeing iconic wildlife that I've always loved in the wild. Wolves, bears, cougars, etc. And it was my first time being in a protected space of that magnitude and seeing so many other people there for the same reason and for the same appreciation and love for this. And it was just I just couldn't believe that coming from, I grew up in the Boston area, for lack of a better word, southern New Hampshire, but for a lot of people, New England is Boston. We had the White Mountains and things, but just this was like true American wilderness in my mind. And it was the first time that I saw it. And
it's different than the East Coast kind of wilderness, I think.
Absolutely. It was just something that I knew even then that I was like, I am forever changed. And I just got here. And it's true. It totally changed the trajectory of my life. It's why I decided to move out west. It's why I decided to work with wolves. It's the reason for a lot of things. And the podcast, honestly, because the first day I got there, I went into the visitor center and went straight to the book section of the gift shop because I'm a bookworm. And I picked up a book called Death in Yellowstone. and
Oh, a little light reading.
just light. Yeah. Reading for vacation. And I flew through that book. And as we were going through the park, so I was that person like,
This right over here is where this person will
oh,
severed head.
someone got
and-
mauled
Oh,
right over
jeez.
here, or this person's car flew off a cliff over here, or whatever. And it just added a lot of richness to the experience. I don't know if my
Sure.
family appreciated it, but I thought it was great. So that was my intro to the park system. And then from there, I've been hooked.
So
I have a similar experience with the Grand Canyon when I ran into that too. Like having lived on the East Coast, I never saw that the desert or that kind of area at all. It was just amazing. Breathtaking is really all I can say about it. It was just awesome. I've been back there several times. That's my favorite.
I've never been to the Grand Canyon. I need to get out more, but how many parks have you been to, Aaron?
I've been to 11.
Oh, nice. I got you beat. 12. Danielle?
U.S. national parks, I've been to 26.
Damn. And there's
It's like-
My job.
Yeah, that's true.
Embarrassing if I didn't.
all right. Okay.
Fair enough. It'd be like us saying, I only had 3 beers ever in my life.
It's true. At some point, we hit 3. You said Yellowstone is your favorite, Danielle?
Yes. Yeah.
Aaron?
I go back and forth honestly between Grand Canyon and Joshua Tree because both of them I've spent a lot of time on. I lived in California, Joshua Tree quite a bit. And that was kind of,
See? I've never been to either one.
and you're missing out, man.
Yeah.
I know.
Which ones have you been to?
I've been to Arches, which was really cool. Acadia in Maine. And I didn't get to spend a lot of time there. I was passing through Gateway Arch in Missouri, which
I think a lot of us have been to there.
yeah, it's not that exciting. Sorry.
I was surprised it was a national park and not a monument.
A lot of people are.
Yeah.
And then conversely, I'm surprised that Devil's Tower is not a park, and that's a monument. So
I've been to the Rocky Mountain National Park, Colorado. So yeah.
White Sands was cool. I've been to that one. That was really neat because it's just white sand everywhere, which was
That's a
lot
weird
of fun.
name for it.
Right, exactly. I also we did a road trip back in 2006 or something like that, and we hit like several of them. So we Grand Canyon and the Petrified Forest and White Sands, Devil's Tower, Yellowstone. Unfortunately for Yellowstone, I only spent 2 days there, and we didn't plan it accordingly. We're thinking, okay, this is our road trip. We can try to hit all these things, and we booked 2 days there, thinking we'll have enough time to see it, and it wasn't even. It's like we maybe saw a fraction.
Yeah, there are certain parks that you get a taste and you're like, okay, coming back, I know what I really want to lean into. And Yellowstone for me is one that I've had a couple trips planned that I would have to cancel for one reason or another, but with the sole purpose of going just to follow the biologists around as far as the wolf packs there, get up at 4 a.m., go out with a spotting scope and just like head out to Lamar Valley is a huge hot spot for them. And versus just like seeing all the big ticket items throughout the park that you could easily go to. Yellowstone, it's 1% of the park is along the roadways and 99% of people, that's where they stay. There's so much backcountry and opportunities to see the park in completely different ways that the vast majority of visitors don't do for one reason or the other. But I would really love to go and experience it in a different way.
I hear that. I'm guilty of that. We didn't really stray too far from where we were, the campsite we were in, and that kind of stuff.
It takes a lot of prep, especially in a park like that there's a lot of things to be mindful of safety-wise with different animals and geothermal features and making sure you don't get lost. And there's a lot to consider. It's not like you just go and wing it type of thing. So that's understandable.
What's funny is like when we went out there, it was in September, and it was obviously end of summer, and everywhere else we went up through like Badlands. It was all warm. We wore shorts and t-shirts, and I remember we stopped at a little town outside of Yellowstone and said, they're like, "Oh, you have warm clothes tonight, don't you?" I'm like, "Well, a sleeping bag," and I'm like, "No, you need stuff." And I ended up buying long underwear and stuff. And I'm glad I did because it got down to like 20 degrees that night. I was super not prepared for that, and I just figured we're just gonna go camp and it's a campsite where there's a bathroom over there, and that's it.
I'm always amazed watching people that are mentioning about being unprepared for going into the parks. Danielle, you have any specific examples of people not being prepared going into the parks?
Oh my God.
You're
Specific.
like, yeah, just one that comes to mind.
There was one idiot who went there and didn't have any worn underwear. He was about to that one.
The biggest things that come to mind right away is something as simple as water, especially in drier and climates with heat. That is just can be sneaky. Grand Canyon's notorious for that because even if you're not doing a rim to rim hike or anything extensive, that park gets a lot of problems with people who only have a water bottle in their hands, just like a disposable water bottle. It's not near enough. So being prepared with water in the Rocky Mountain area, especially people who are not versed in bear safety, a lot of people get in trouble with wildlife encounters where they either do not have any deterrence or are unaware or unsure of how to react if they're confronted with a bear or other wildlife for moose, elk, bison, etc.
I just saw a big story. I don't know where it was, but it was a bear that kept going around sneaking into campsites and taking everybody's picnic basket. Him and his little sidekick. Yeah. Remember that?
Sounds like something I would see at a Great Smoky Mountain National Park.
Yeah.
For sure.
I did see that Grand Canyon's got the most deaths of all the national parks.
Yeah, so that statistic is so hard to keep up with because it's like what parameters are we looking at here? Is it based on, because if you look up most dangerous national park or most deaths, it's Grand Canyon has a shitload of deaths, but there's also a shitload of visitors.
That's the most good.
Yeah, but if you look at a park like North Cascades, for example, in Washington, or maybe one in Alaska, where the visitation numbers are much lower, but of those, they have a higher rate of accidents or deaths. Is that classified as more dangerous? It's hard depending on the way you're slicing the numbers. But yeah, a lot of people die in the Grand Canyon, but a lot of people also go there. So
right. I would argue that like Grand Canyon, Yosemite, and the Smoky Mountains actually has the highest rate. I can't say that for sure, but I saw that they had a really high rate as well. But it's also most visited and it's huge.
Right. Exactly.
And so like just the number of people, the statistic they always say like most car crashes happen within 25 of your house. Yeah, no shit, because that's where it's the same thing. You get more people there, you're going to have more.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, digging into that a little bit more, Denali was I'll try this in English, most deaths per million of visitors. So 9.8, in case you want to know, 9.8 per million visitors, which I don't know. That still doesn't seem like a whole lot, but I think that's all environmental stuff.
A lot of it is climbing accidents in Denali or falling into a crevasse or hypothermia or
I saw that the redwood forests, their death rate is mostly due to motor vehicle crashes. But that's interesting. I don't know. Is it just because that's where people drive through? Is it just the winding roads getting up to there? I don't know.
Maybe.
I've been there once. I didn't go to there. I went to Muir Woods and it was very windy and certainly they were treacherous to get past a couple points with some cars. So maybe that's the case. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw Virgin Islands top cause of death, drowning.
That would make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't see stupidity listed on any of them though. That's probably number one, isn't it?
Like a contributing factor to a lot of them, unfortunately.
I just crack up when I see these videos of visitors to the parks that, like, I saw one of somebody messing around with one of the thermal water features in Yellowstone. Seriously? Are you that stupid that you're going to go and whatever they're trying to do? Like, why would you touch it? Or walking up to take selfies with bison? That doesn't seem that smart.
No, it makes me pull my hair out. I follow Taurons of Yellowstone still, but I've debated muting them or unfollowing for a while because it is so like infuriating. It makes you want to rip your hair out. And at face value, like for the average person, you can laugh it off and be like, that was stupid and what is wrong with you? But for someone who like looks at it in a different way, like I do, like I just see all of the domino effects that can come from that and the price that either the natural features have to pay or wildlife that's involved that is now put down because somebody left their trash out or decided to approach and it reacted, and now that animal needs to pay the price for that decision. And it's really depressing that we just can't get our shit together enough and to be responsible and respectful visitors to these wild places. It drives me insane.
It's the Instagram effect kind of thing. It's social media, you're trying to do it for likes and whatever else, and you get people who are, you see them knocking over rocks. Let's see how quickly it rolls down the steps or down the hill or whatever else, or stealing fossils. And
yeah, there's a huge debate about geotagging in social media. Do you like the whole gatekeeping thing? Is that something that there's just a debate whether or not it's the right thing to do? Because on one side, people are saying, if you can go there and visit, why don't gatekeep? Like, where are you? We all deserve to be able to experience wherever you are, whatever you're doing. But then on the other hand of that, it's okay if you give out that information, now 5 million people know where this secluded, nice spot is that has been flying under the radar for this long, and now the floodgates are open and it's going to get destroyed because people are irresponsible. So it's that since the dawn of Instagram and social media, just really always being a hot point of debate.
So what do? We cut people to just virtual reality visits?
That might be the only alternative.
I mean, I'm joking, but not, because the whole point obviously is to preserve nature. And when we're going out, and we as a society, when we're going out and ruining this stuff, we're going to ruin it for future generations.
And it doesn't help either. Certain cuts from budgets and things like that have been happening more recently in like the government and national parks and that kind of stuff. It should be monitored. It should be kept up. And I think it's a very important position, I feel like.
Yeah, that is a huge thing in our world right now. We actually just wrapped a episode that's coming out at the beginning of March about that exact thing, just addressing what the budget cuts mean for public lands. And we also talked to 3 different people who were wrongfully terminated from their positions, either within the U.S. National Forest or the National Park System, and just their experience and what it means for public lands as a whole and where this is going. Because a lot of people are very concerned that this is just the tip of the iceberg to something much larger, which as the literal days unfold, it's becoming clearer and clearer. This administration's trying to strip the Antiquities Act, which has been in place since 1906. Every president and every administration has agreed that's a good idea, and we should probably keep that around up until now. And the point of that is to open public lands for natural resource mining.
Privatization as well, corporate getting in there too. I don't like that either. It's crazy, and it's sad, unfortunately, I think, because it's sad.
Yeah, well said. Danielle, I think I saw on your Instagram or someplace, you had a place for people to go and get a sample letter that they can write to elected officials.
Yeah, we have a link on our Instagram bio that just goes to a Google Doc that we put together that is just a very simple, straightforward letter template that you can use to either fill in and send or use to call as a script, and a resource of how to find your local representatives or your state representatives to say that this is wrong and that you oppose the budget cuts that are affecting public lands, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so it's right there. It's super easy. It takes a minute to do.
And because of the cuts, it was almost overnight, wasn't it? Like all of a
sudden, it was legitimately overnight. Yeah, especially talking to, because there's a lot of information online, right, swirling around. It's what actually happened. But after speaking to 3 different people with very different backgrounds, different parts of the country, different roles, had the same experience. And it was essentially on February 14th, they were locked out of all of their government emails, and they were told that they were being terminated due to poor performance, despite having glowing letters of recommendation and glowing performance reviews. And this was coming not from their supervisors, but it was the same letter that they got, cookie cutter letter that came from the powers that be above their supervisors. And overnight lost their job. There was one ranger we talked to. He'd been a ranger in Yosemite for 15 years and lost his job out of nowhere. So it's hard because it's heartbreaking for people at an individual level. You're like, that's fucked up. Like, that's awful for that person, but it's also awful on such a grander scale. So it's just really concerning, and hopefully it gets turned around, because there's been a huge public uproar. Because no matter where you are politically, people care about the outdoors. People connect with the outdoors, whether it's hunting, fishing, hiking, boating, whatever it is. You want to be able to enjoy the outdoors. And this administration is trying to dismantle protections for those places, and people are pissed.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I guess if there's one thing good that might come out of it is restricting some of the flow of visitors, because I'm sure that now we'll go to reservations and stuff like that. But I mean, just the safety and the maintenance, and and then on the personal level, that's fucked up.
Yeah, safety. They're cutting search and rescue teams. There's some parks that will not have a search and rescue team. So good luck to everyone out there. It's like, it just seems so counterintuitive and so asinine. And it's really concerning, honestly, because...
Well, hopefully we see a turn. I know that, sorry to cut you off. I know that there are other areas that have, I was just on the news the other day, they cut all these jobs and then it's like, oh shit. And now they're hiring people back, or trying to. So hopefully it's something like that where we can get some personnel back in there. But I don't know.
I think this is something we're going to see a lot of drastic changes with, like I said, day by day, just because it happened so suddenly. The response was overwhelming. So now I think they're like, oh, we messed with the wrong group of people here, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, we can only hope for the best and just take it as it comes.
Are you aware of any parks that have had to close? Like,
not entirely, but I do know of several that have completely shut down certain days of the week, or restricted their hours, or, like you said, are going to be enacting ticketed and timed reservation systems, which we've seen parks do in the past.
Sure.
Which there's been another kind of mixed response about, because you can see the pros and cons to both, but it takes away oh, I'm road tripping through here. I would love to stop. And they're reserved for the next 3 weeks. Sorry.
Which sucks. However, again, just for the conservation part of it,
there are benefits.
Like
there are. But yeah, there's definitely, we're already seeing, because a lot of people don't know, the Park Service and public lands in general were already running on a skeleton crew. They had been experiencing budget cuts since 2010, over 10 years. And now this is just like a big wham all at once. So now they're really struggling. But yeah, so we'll see. This is a resilient group of people. And like I said, a lot of people who are either directly involved or not really care. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I feel like national parks and just wilderness should be up there with like education and the importance, but
one would think.
It's definitely not the same level. Education's important too, don't get me wrong.
No, it's not. Have you seen the reviews on Yellowstone, like on some of the reviews on these parks? Have you ever read any of those? I don't know if you guys have on your site. It's pretty funny. Like, I was reading one like Yellowstone. It was a 1-star review on Yellowstone. It was like, this is a bunch of hot water and rocks. Like,
overrated.
Right. Would not recommend. Old Faithful, the lines for Old Faithful were longer than the actual event.
See, and those are the people that should be limited from going in.
It is a dichotomy. We want to, these people who, let's skip over that. We'll cut that out.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. Don't worry. You guys do a lot of editing, or you guys just sit down and just go?
Yeah.
We just sit down and go. We definitely will edit a lot of mispronunciations or stumbles, but not overtly, just because we want to come across as not robotic. But I just did an episode yesterday, we recorded it, that had a lot of Swedish and
Jeez.
and just different types of words that I was like, I don't even know. My mouth can't even form those
Javork,
syllables.
Javork.
This is gonna be rough.
That's
Well,
funny.
Yeah. Let's move on to a more fun topic now. Let's talk about some of the paranormal stuff. Obviously, this is something you're really big into, and what can you tell us? What's the most outrageous story? Your favorite story to tell, I guess.
Oh my God, paranormal wise.
Have you
I
experienced
don't.
anything yourself?
I've experienced something paranormal twice, and it was not in national parks either time. They were in my homes. One in Colorado. Actually, they were both in Colorado, but in different. So I could definitely tell you about that if you want. But as far as outdoor wise, I love, and it's not necessarily in a national park, but it's very closely associated with it because it's in Estes Park. And I hate pointing to this because I feel like everyone's, oh my God, the Stanley Hotel, we know about it. But I love the Stanley and I don't find it creepy at all.
No, I've been there as well. I love it. It's fun.
I find it so welcoming and warm. Don't get me wrong, I feel a vibe there for sure, like a paranormal weird. There's something definitely to that space. But I'm not on the camp of there's twins and the whole Stephen King thing and it's like a slasher film. That is not the vibe I get whatsoever. And I've taken that ghost tour more times than I can count. I could probably recite it to you right now. And I don't get that feeling when I'm there. I love it. I know that. Have you heard the Jim Carrey thing about there? They filmed part of Dumb and Dumber there.
Okay.
And
Aspen, California. Beautiful.
Where the beer flows like wine.
That's right.
And allegedly he stayed or was scheduled to stay in the Stephen King suite, where the infamous room where Stephen King came up with The Shining after his stay at the Stanley Hotel. And I guess he lasted less than like an hour and ran out screaming and decided to stay at a Holiday Inn on the other side of town and refused to be on site at the Stanley unless they were filming.
Wow.
And he will not speak about that experience. And there's not a lot of information about what happened to him there. But I just have the opposite experiences. I really enjoy it there.
Have you ever been to the one in Yosemite, like the
Yawani?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I know that was also like, I understood like the blood scene from The Shining was taken off of their elevators or their doors or something like that. They had the two red doors, and that was inspired by the blood scene.
Yeah. So the Yawani, the Shining is actually really interesting because it was the story was based off an experience that happened in the Stanley Hotel. Mm-hmm. The interior shots of that film are all the Yawani.
Oh, okay.
And the exterior shots of the building are the Timberline Hotel on Mount Hood in Oregon.
Interesting.
So there's all these little pieces. And the big opening scene of The Shining is going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park.
The nice over the
Yes, the big winding, flyover. So it's interesting because there's little bits and pieces of national park and forest all in that movie.
I feel like I've been misled. That's
but the television series that came later is all in the Stanley Hotel.
Which
it's hard to follow.
I've seen both, actually. The television series actually followed the book a little closer, but I love the movie. I just watched the movie the other day, actually.
Mm.
So.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in years, but at least in its entirety. But yeah.
Yeah. And then another paranormal thing that I didn't experience, but I was there for, and I saw Cassie going through it. So we stayed at the Crescent Hotel outside of in the Hot Springs area in Arkansas. And it's allegedly one of the most haunted hotels in the country. And it has a really awful history and a lot of death and everything there. And we stayed intentionally because we did a live stream show out of there. We stayed It used to be run by this snake oil salesman that posed as a doctor saying he had a cure for cancer, and he was injecting people with a bunch of toxic shit, and a lot of people died and are buried on the property, et cetera, et cetera. So we go in there thinking that we're going to see like the ghost of like a nurse or like a patient or maybe the doctor himself, whatever. And none of that happened to us, but we were standing at the elevator waiting for it to give us a lift up. And all of a sudden, mid-conversation, Cassie is, "You feel that?" I'm like, "No." And she's, "I feel something is very off here and I do not know what it is, but I'm really uncomfortable." And it just came out of nowhere, and she was super persistent about it. And then it went away, and we did research because we're like, okay, so in this spot, did anything happen here?
Right.
And nothing came up as far as our historical research because we were centered on that point in time for that hotel. Come to find out, that elevator is right next to a large staircase. And in the 2000s, somebody fell off that staircase and died on the floor by the elevator.
Oh.
And so she picked up on that first somehow, which was really interesting. And we had no idea until after. So it wasn't even like pre-set in our minds to look out for that. But yeah.
I've stayed at that hotel, and it is old. And it was one of those, like, laying in bed, like, I wonder if this place is haunted. And I heard like the floor creak or whatever, but it's just so old that I just chalk it up to being old. And
you can explain so much away.
Yeah.
In old buildings like that.
And
yeah.
Aaron and I have we had a whole episode about cryptids and stuff like that. I want to believe. I want to believe in all of it. I want to believe in supernatural, aliens, afterlife. I want to believe in all of it. I have not experienced anything, and I also don't want to be scared shitless when it happens. That's it. I just don't want to, no body possessions, anything like that. I don't need that.
Yeah. I'd rather not have to go through that. Yeah,
right.
I get it.
Right. I've said that before.
If I had my choice.
If I'm going to see a ghost, I hope it's Casper. But as somebody pointed out, that's just the ghost of a dead kid. So I don't know if that's good or not.
Right. Which I would prefer not to see.
I'll pass.
Yeah.
Now, is Bigfoot real?
Okay. I'm going to say, this is so interesting that you say this. I am a diehard paranormal girl. I have my alien behind me. I am a huge believer in the afterlife, extraterrestrial life. And I am the biggest Bigfoot stan out there because my dad was really into Bigfoot. And the more and more that I learn, the more and more I don't know. And that's like a big deal for me to say because I do think there's something to every legend, especially one so widespread at a global scale with so many similarities from so many different cultures throughout time. There has to be something to that in my mind. This isn't just a local legend to one area of one state that popped up randomly in the 30s and now is like their thing. This is something that has been seen in different cultures around the world for thousands of years, pop up in different oral histories or text or things like that. So I think that there's something to it. But do I think it's like overblown a little bit? Sure. Do I think gun to my head, is Bigfoot real? Yes. That's my answer.
Also big business too. Have you ever been on one of the Bigfoot expeditions and things like that too?
I haven't, but I want to so desperately.
I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be really cool.
Me too.
I'm torn. I don't know if it's going to be fun or not. Out there in the middle of the night, in the middle of the woods, with a thermal camera pointing at nothing.
At your face.
Yeah. We talk about that all the time. Like on all the TV shows, they're like, "Did you see that?"
No, I just saw up your nostrils for the
right because you're facing you and not that way. Yeah. Right. Show me what you're seeing.
Yeah.
What's that one ghost hunting show? They do that all the time. It's more about the so it's all about the characters on the show.
Yeah.
And so no, I didn't see anything. So,
have you heard much about Mount Shasta?
I have, and I actually have it as like a episode in the works. But I've been there. I've camped there. And it's beautiful. I had the best pancakes at a town like right outside of Mount Shasta of my life. But yeah, heard all about the Lemurians and there's some sort of
Vortex of, like,
civilization.
physical, metaphysical worlds, and the city
Yeah.
underneath the mountain, and
Yeah, it's a
lizard
hot spot.
people,
Yeah.
New Age spirituality. Like, it seems like it's really fun. I had never been there, but
It's very
even know that.
interesting.
Never heard of it.
It's in California. It's in Northern California.
Okay.
It's beautiful, but yeah, I've definitely heard of it is very like New Agey spiritual, like vortex of a different, I'm not super well versed in it because I haven't researched it yet, but definitely like this, I don't want to say like superior civilization, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Aaron?
yeah, like it had even the natives said that there were like people living under the mountains and technologically advanced races,
Mhm.
mythical creatures, and things like that out there too.
But look people like human-like, just
Humanoids, yeah, exactly.
humanoids. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I'm gonna have to look.
I thought it was interesting that here I've never seen it. I guess I'd never been there, but I saw a ton of stuff out there for that, which I thought was. It's a pretty big mountain though too. It's not like it's a simple thing like
Oh, it's big.
something you
Yeah.
would have to climb and probably have a lot of gear and prep to be able to climb the top of it. I'm
Mhm.
guessing.
Never heard of it.
Now you have.
Yeah. The only other one I saw a lot on was like the Devil's Chair in Joshua Tree, which has a lot of like deaths and that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's more. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Joshua Tree, but like the rock formations out there are so easy to climb because they just have a good grip. And I feel like a lot of people would go out there and prepared to climb. They're just in tennis shoes. They're just visiting or driving through. And I'm going to climb up this thing and don't. It's hard to judge when you get to the top of it how steep you might have actually climbed and how to get down from some of these large rocks. And I think it's really easy, like I said, to climb up there because of the gripping.
Yeah, we've been to Joshua Tree once or twice, and we're actually doing a group event there at the beginning of May. We're renting out Indian Cove Campground for listeners, and we're going to do a live show there and
Nice.
all that. But my favorite story out of Joshua Tree is Graham Parsons, the Graham
I
Parsons.
don't think I know that one.
Nope.
Do you know the Flying Burrito Brothers?
Yeah,
I've heard it. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so Graham Parsons, who was the lead singer, he overdosed in a hotel right outside of Joshua Tree, which we stayed in his room. And there was a big dispute between his friends and his family, who he was estranged from, as to what to do with his remains. And his friends posed as funeral directors and got his body as it was being loaded onto a plane to be flown back to his family in Louisiana. They posed as these funeral directors, took it, went on a bender, got drunk and high out of their mind with him in a hearse that their friend just happened to use as a camper. So they had a hearse
Nice.
and flew through the park just out of their minds, like celebrating the life of Graham. And then they pulled off onto the side of the road in the park and lit him on fire to try and cremate him.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Okay. And then
As one does.
they're like, this is what he would have wanted. And then they saw somebody coming and they thought it was a park ranger and they're blitzed. So they're like, we gotta get out of here. So they leave this burning casket on the side of the road in the park. And it just happened to be another visitor because it was in the middle of the night. So they just saw the headlights. They thought they were in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just another visitor who happened to see it. And they're like, what the hell?
Double Han Graham.
Oh.
And so anyway, it was a whole thing. But that was just a wild story. And
Wow.
yeah,
I've never heard that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Not in a good way. It's awesome.
it's like a fitting end for the life he lived, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Aaron,
That's how I want to go out. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a Viking.
I'm in.
Viking funeral for you. All right. What do you think of the beer? Has it gotten
Mine's-
better?
Mine's empty. I'm done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. Again, I'm not loving it, but I don't hate it either. It's not like I could never drink this again.
It is mellowed out for me, so that's a good thing. So it was just a little bit too bitter at first.
Definitely when it gets warmer, it mellows out a little bit more. I think that's the deal. And I liked it a lot.
We all do. I did a fun little Google search back to the cryptids. I do think, as you mentioned, Danielle, like, why are there so many places that have a Bigfoot-like creature? There's the skunk ape and others that are like
Yeti.
everything's an ape and it all smells and it's all furry.
So I think there's something to that. So I don't know if you're familiar with Gigantopithecus or have ever heard of that. Yeah. So it's no. Did you say no?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. All right. So Gigantopithecus we have skeletal remains of it. This was an actual animal that once lived on Earth that looks very familiar or very similar to what we describe as Bigfoot, like a giant ape.
They had big heads, right?
Big heads, bipedal, stands on two legs, walks, it's furry, hairy, whatever you want to say.
I know a few people like that.
So we have fossil record of this animal. We know that it existed. So a lot of people are in the camp of Bigfoot or Yeti, the grass man, yucca man, whatever, skunk ape, are just pocket populations of that animal only in modern day. So just like animals evolve if they've been fragmented from over time, just as evolution happens, it's like in that vein of thinking. Okay, there was this umbrella species of Gigantopithecus at one point, and as things happened over time, either geographic separation or they're fragmented now because people are prevalent and we're pushing them into the last little pockets of the wild world. They've adapted to their surroundings. So a Yeti is going to have white hair because they live in a snowy environment, just like Arctic fox. Or in the Pacific Northwest, they're different because they're in a different area. So some people think of it along those lines, and that's more of the science mind. And I think there's something to that, perhaps. I might be in the camp of, I think they were maybe once way more prevalent if they did survive. And now they're larger than life in our minds because we've just snowballed them into this big lore and legend. And maybe there are some still out there, but in no way the same as they used to be, maybe in 500 years ago. Who knows? I don't know. I would like to think that there's still some mystery and magic in the world. It keeps me sane to think that it's not all like this everywhere.
Yeah.
Doom and gloom. Yeah. And there's still like beings out there that are just from another time, another place, just out there living.
So
yeah,
you made me, for no particular reason, you made me think about this. Are there other countries that you're aware of that do national parks better than us?
That's a good question. In which way? Like preservation, visitation?
Yeah, maybe they're a little bit, maybe in Australia, they're a little bit more hardcore about preserving the outback. I don't know. And again, I hate to say that we need more rules. Maybe that's why they're more preserved or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe they have better accessibility. That's one of the problems with some of our parks is that you can't get to them, or it's difficult to get to them.
It's so interesting because I guess the short answer of that is I don't know. But based off of my personal experience, I've been to parks in Europe, Asia, South America, and by and large, they're like a lot different from the way that the parks are here. And I think that's because I've been to parks in South America that like I saw maybe 20 other people. And compared to the United States, that's obviously a lot different. I think with the US, our problem, and also something great about it, is so many people want to see them. And I would argue that they're almost very accessible, at least portions of them, right? Not everyone's going to go scaling the backcountry in Yosemite, but it's fairly easy for everyone to get there. There's any ability, whether you're able to rock climb or you're just confined to your car, you're able to experience the parks in some way. And I think that is a double-edged sword because everyone can go.
Sure.
If you do though, one of the things when we went, I really enjoyed was like they have those passports, which are really fun, and you get things stamped, and you can. We have ours obviously filled out with the 11 we've been to, and I don't know, I enjoy that. I definitely think that's like a fun thing if people are looking at going. Check that out. And also, one of the things we found on our road trip, and I don't know if they still do this now. This is several years ago. We bought the National Parks Pass. It wasn't as much. It was maybe $50 versus $25 at the time, but it lets you in all the parks for the entire year, which I think is really cool. I think that's a neat thing versus just paying $20 every single park, especially on a road trip like that.
Yeah, because usually day passes are $30-something or so per carload, and if you get a national park pass for the year, it's $65 for the whole year, unlimited visits. And I do know that they have programs. It's either 3rd or 4th grade. I'm not sure, but if people have children that are that age, you can get a free park pass. And then also veterans or senior citizens or whatever. They have so many ways to make visiting parks doable for everyone, because the outdoors are for everyone, and everyone should be able to experience seeing a park and having a personal experience with them.
But just be mindful, watch the rules, and pay attention out there, and make sure you're not trying to mess up.
Did you see some of the rules?
I did not.
Oh, there's one. I've never been to Death Valley, but apparently the hot springs that are in the park, there's a rule that you're not allowed to give birth in the hot springs. Like,
it's that rule was created because someone
did.
Shenandoah National Park, there's no burying your poop in less than 3 inches of cover.
That should go everywhere. That should go everywhere.
That's
just saying.
Right. No one wants to step in that. Come on.
In all national parks, it is technically illegal to tease the animals.
And
who's doing this shit?
To too many people. Too many.
Yeah. I also saw that, and I don't know the right way to pronounce it. Cairns, those are the little rock formation. There is a rule that you're not supposed to knock those over.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the logic is that some rangers and other people use them as like trailheads or indications of where you're going. I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah, they're not just like rock piles because somebody wanted to build a stack of rocks. A lot of people use them as guide.
And you're not supposed to build them either, because then that's right. Throw people off.
Just leave them. Don't contribute and don't take away. Yeah.
Now, back to question. So for both of you, where should the next national park be?
Like established?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you could totally be biased for yourself. Like you really want it to be in New England. That's fine. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think Kansas has a national park, so maybe they need something.
Going back to your original, I don't think it was a question, but we were just touched on it for a second about what the National Park Service controls and what they oversee and what the difference between a park or not is. So the National Park Service, as of right now, if you were to ask somebody how many national parks are there, they're going to say 63. And that's true because there are 63 national parks. But the National Park System actually oversees over 420 units. So that includes monuments, national scenic trails like the AT, national seashores like on Cape Cod, battle sites, there's cemeteries like you were saying, Brett. There's so many different facets of the National Park Service that they regulate and oversee. And sometimes they elevate national monuments to national park statuses and vice versa. Like Mackinac Island right now in Michigan, if anybody has been there, that's a state park, but that was actually the country's first national park.
Oh, I thought it was second. Damn.
Yellowstone is first, I would say. But yeah, Mackinac was dethroned, if you will. But national monuments have also been turned into national parks. So, and some people are like, why, like you said, Aaron, why is this not a national park if it's just a national monument? And there's an argument for the arch being a park and not an monument. But I don't want to get anyone St. Louis people mad.
All my family lives out there, so I don't care.
They don't listen, so don't worry about it.
That's right.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I would agree. I think Devil's Tower would be an amazing national park. I know it's already pretty up there. A lot of people know of it and visit it even just as a monument. And it's afforded a lot of protections because clearly it's part of the Park Service. But it just has such a cultural significance to it that I think is so interesting. And it's beautiful. It's so unique. And it's one of those places that I think if it was designated as a park, that more people would go there to experience.
Mm-hmm. For me, I'm thinking it would be obviously the Devil Tower I love, and that would be the one as well, but also the meteor crater in Arizona. That's awesome. I went out there, but it's privately owned, and it's fine. They do a really good job on it. They have a museum and everything else, so I'm not saying it's not a fun thing, but I feel like it should be a national park. I just feel like it's this huge, big, really landscape thing that we have in our country that should be.
Yeah. I think somewhere up in Maine would be cool too, just because I know there's Acadia and that's great, but Maine is so huge and a lot of it is just so beautiful. And Teton is technically part of the AT, which is technically overseen by the Park Service. I don't know, but it's not like a park.
I do think it's interesting that President Trump has, enacted obviously some big budget cuts, and yet I think he's still going forward with a national park that he proposed. Actually, I think his first term, that is, I don't know, statues or busts of founders of our country. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this.
Hold on a minute. Let me Google this because this is very important. Trump's. And of course it would be something like that. Sorry. Well, and I'm not trying to get political here, but
and that's fine.
Are you talking about Mount Rushmore?
I know, it sounds familiar.
I am not.
Which is awesome, by the way. That's another great place to visit. I'm surprised. Is that one a national park? Actually, I don't know.
So hold on one second. Sorry.
No, it's a memorial.
It's a national memorial. Yeah, gotcha. But so I've been there, but what really blew me away was Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
Trump's proposed national park.
I stumped you?
Trump pisses me off, so I try and listen. Oh yeah. Once again proposed a national sculpture garden that would honor well-known figures in American history, reviving a similar plant. Pop up.
Okay.
Okay.
I was close.
National Sculpture Garden, fine, whatever.
National Garden of American Heroes Sculpture Garden. It would feature 250 sculptures, one for each year of U.S. history. Let me guess, he's going to carve himself in there.
For sure. You know that's going to be
from the entrance.
Oh, my.
There'll be a big plaque in the front, too.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So here's the thing and my thoughts with that. I'm all about honoring American heroes, and I think that they deserve recognition and praise. And depending on, I don't have the list of people, so let's see who he deems as a hero. But it's like he wants to do that, but at the same time, he's actively trying to get rid and dismantle any federal agency that safeguards public lands in Alaska so that he can drill there. Like, he's gonna ruin Alaska. And all of the Alaska's the best state that we have, in my opinion. And it's part of the last bit of wild frontier that we actually have. And he wants to just strip it. And it's just going to be so detrimental. I don't give a shit if we have a garden of 250 people, carvings of them, if Alaska's going to get wiped out. I don't know. It's just whatever. I would be all for this sculpture garden if we weren't doing all this other bad stuff.
Once again, if you are opposed to it, you can go to, was it your website? You said you had a form.
We have it on our Instagram, National Park After Dark, on a link in our bio. Yeah, for the letter template. Yep.
If you'd like to learn more about the national parks, you can go to nps.gov. That is the actual website, the official website, national parks. You can check out everything out there that we did. This beer was amazing. I dug it a lot.
Danielle, or 0 to 5, what would you rate it?
Okay, I would say maybe like a 3.
Yeah.
3's okay, right?
Yeah, IPA scale for me, I'm saying it's a 4 because again, I don't do a lot of IPAs, but this one's pretty smooth for me.
I don't like IPAs at all, but this one is. I'm almost done with it. Danielle, what's your website so people can go and check out everything about you and Cassie?
Yeah, sure. Or email. Wait, what was it? Email,
Whatever
Instagram?
you want to give us. Give us some socials.
Oh, okay. So I always mess this up. So our website is npadpodcast.com. And our Instagram is National Park After Dark. That's the easiest too. You don't need anything else.
And they can pick you up anywhere they listen to podcasts, right? Spotify, Apple, wherever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good podcast. I highly recommend everyone checking it out because it's really fun. And you guys can do a lot of fun stories out there.
Thank you.
I've been trying to buy some merch.
Oh, merch has been a journey.
Oh, my goodness.
It's hard, but we're trying to restock. Once you get like a merch partner that you think will like help, sometimes it's harder. Like you guys sent me a shirt. I'm like, oh, you guys have shirts? We don't have that.
Yeah. It's funny because I thought I saw someplace like, oh, everything's restocked. And then I went on there and everything's sold out. I'm like, fuck. Like,
yeah.
I just want a mug.
I'll give you a heads up when we restock next so that you can grab something. We're working on an evergreen store so that it's just, there's like items that are just always there, which would be preferable. So I'll let you know.
Nice.
NDAPF, right? Podcast? NDAP podcast.
NPAD.
NPAD podcast. I'm going to say that again. Hold on.
I'm like, wait, what are we saying?
Where's the F coming from? What the F?
There's a niner in there somewhere. Yeah.
Coming from a walkie-talkie.
podcast. That's where you can check out them as well. And if you like what you heard today, you can also go to our website, aysm.show. We'll be linking to Danielle's podcast as well. And you can see links over there and listen to some of our favorite episodes too. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here and taking your time this morning drinking with us here. So
yeah,
we definitely appreciate it.
Done this since college. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
You want to tell us what we're listening to next time?
Oh yeah, hold on. Sorry.